Rad family! For today's Rad Chat, I want to share with you guys my top 10 personal favorite zombie movies of all time. So let's get to it. Starting off the list, I think it's very fitting to begin with the very first zombie movie I've ever seen in my entire life, and that is George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Now, if you like zombie movies, I'm pretty positive that you've heard George A. Romero's name before, and if you haven't, you are missing out because he is the king of zombies. He is who's responsible for making zombies what they are today. So if you've never seen a George A. Romero movie before, you really should. So a real quick synopsis, because I don't want to give anything away in this video, but it's about a group of survivors after society falls because they come back as the undead brain munchers known as zombies. They take refuge in a shopping mall, and let's just say after watching this movie, you're not going to look at shopping malls the same. Now, I personally love the original and the remake, so I suggest if you've only ever seen one or if you haven't seen either to watch them, but the remake is quite different than the original because the zombies are not the typical Romero zombies, but I still enjoy it. I love both, so hopefully you do too. Number 9 is 28 Days Later. Holy shit, this movie is fucking terrifying. This movie gave me nightmares. I think zombies in general can be very scary to me personally, but this movie in particular, the zombies, they're fast, they're angry, they don't care about nothing besides passing this virus on to you. And I think the main difference and why I liked it so much is a lot of people's complaints about zombies are, oh, they're too slow, you could just walk around them, they want to put up much of a fight, how could society fall? And granted, sometimes that is true, and it's more about the plot and how people react than the actual zombies itself, but nope, this movie, if you come encounter with one of these zombies, you're dead. That's just the way it is. A real quick synopsis of this movie. A group of animal rights activists go into a research facility and unknowingly break out a chimp that has been infected with this new virus called the rage virus. It's very aptly named because it makes them incredibly angry. And let's just say shit hits the fan real fucking quick and society falls, but a guy who was in a coma for all of this wakes up to find London completely abandoned. He can't see anybody, but he gets the surprise of his life. It's really great, highly recommend. And that brings us to number 8 on this list, which is 28 Weeks Later. It is the sequel to 28 Days, obviously the name. And why it's on my personal favorites list is because it goes past what happens after a zombie movie ends. This shows what happens when society gets their footing again and fights back to the zombies and how they can rebuild and move past this horrific thing that's killed so many people. And of course, being a zombie movie, things don't go as planned. And that will be my synopsis for this movie. Super great. I do suggest you watch the first and then the second just because while it's different characters, it's a nice progression to see how the virus moves and how society changes. Number 7 on this list is Fido. Fido is unlike anything you've ever seen before. It is the complete perfect mashup of humor and comedy and zombie movies. And before you start thinking, oh, that sounds campy as fuck, it's not, trust me. There is a great overall plot to it, so it's not just, oh, look at the zombie doing something zombie shouldn't do. It's not like that. A real quick synopsis. It shows a picturesque 1950s style society and how they choose to act during the zombie apocalypse, which instead of cowering in fear and allowing zombies to eat your brain, they decide to make zombies their servants. Yep, it's weird, it's funny, and it has a touching story that I highly recommend that you go watch it. Did I lose track of the numbers? Oh shoot. Oh well. Keeping in the theme of comedy horror, which I'm a huge fan of, is Shaun of the Dead. This was the very first comedy horror movie I've ever seen in my entire life, and it just happened to be zombies. This movie is downright hilarious. Even if you're not a big fan of zombie movies, which thank you for watching this video, you will like this movie because it, once again, is more than just zombies. There's jokes about zombies, but it's more so about Sean and his group of friends during the zombie apocalypse and how they just plan on going to the pub and waiting for this whole thing to blow over. And that's pretty much the synopsis for this movie. It's a group of friends that band together to fight the undead in a very funny way. Moving back to super fucking terrifying zombie movies is Wreck. This movie is hands down the most tense and suspenseful and anxious zombie movies you will ever see, because it relies on what you don't see, which I personally think is more scary most of the time than what you do see. A real quick synopsis: a reporter is following the fire department doing a story for the news, and they get a call and she goes with them. It's to an old apartment because somebody is sick. But it turns out that person's not just ill, they are infected with a zombie virus. There's moments in this movie where you feel like you are there. You feel like something is going to be behind that shadow or just around the corner. It is really, the atmosphere is very enthralling, and I'm rambling way too much about this movie, but I really, really like it. They do have an English remake of this movie called Quarantine. I also like that movie, but honestly, the original, there's just nothing like it. We're going to jump back to a more lighthearted comedy, which is Zombieland. If you managed to live under a rock and not have heard of this movie, holy crap, it is great. It's funny, it's heartwarming, there's zombies in it, Bill Murray makes an appearance in it, it's great. So a real quick synopsis: a college student is trying to make his way back home after the zombie apocalypse wipes out the town, and on his way home, he meets Woody Harrelson's character, who is just looking for a Twinkie. And there's just some ridiculous, absurd scenes in this movie. Like, it would never cross my mind to go to Bill Murray's mansion during the zombie apocalypse, but they do. The next one is The Land of the Dead, which is another George A. Romero movie, and it's one of his newer ones. And it is such a wonderful progression in his movie series. It shows a different side to zombies than what we typically get to see, which is scary. It shows what happens when zombies have been left to roam the world for years. And it shows them, I don't want to give anything away. It's very fascinating, and it makes them even scarier. And that's all I'm going to tell you about this movie. Number 2 is The Return of the Living Dead. There's just nothing like an 80s horror movie. This is the classic came out from the grave walking corpse. A real quick synopsis for this movie: a young guy just started a job at a toxic medical waste disposal company, and things go wrong at his job, and it releases this gross chemical that brings people back to life after they die. It's gory, it's absurd, it is wonderful, and it's a really great time. I highly recommend this movie if you're looking for old school experience. Now, ending this list is my all-time favorite movie, which is The Diary of the Dead. After I saw this movie, it cemented in my brain that this is what I want to do. It's my dream to one day direct my own horror movie, specifically a zombie movie. And this is the movie that showed me it's possible. Yes, it's a George A. Romero zombie movie. He's super famous, but he likes to shoot his movies on the lower budget side of things. And seeing this movie and seeing how simplistic the cast was and the scenery was and the way they shot it and edited it gave me inspiration and motivation to one day pursue my own. This is a lost footage, first person, point of view, camera styled, that's a long description. So if you're not a fan of this type of subgenre like the Blair Witch Project, this probably will be a little hard for you to watch because there are quite a few shaky scenes. A real quick synopsis: a group is making a low-budget horror movie out in the woods when the zombie apocalypse breaks out. So they decide to document everything that they're encountering and how society fell. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful movie that shows you more how would you act in this situation, how would relationships be affected. and it's beautiful and I love it, and that's why it is my all-time favorite zombie movie ever made. If you guys have any other zombie movies that I didn't mention that are your personal favorites, please leave them down in the comments below. I would love to read them and find maybe new movies that I haven't seen yet that you would recommend to me. So I hope you guys liked today's video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up so that I know you liked this rad chat and I can make more rad chats that you like. And until next time, keep up the radness and I'll see you real soon. Bye.